Special request to the Brooklyn Posse.
Hello and welcome to the Fitz and Healthy podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauren Fitzgerald, and I'm joined by not only my beautiful co-host, Cynthia McAllister today, but I'm joined by really probably my number one favorite podcaster, Mr. Shawn Stevenson himself. What's up, my friend?
Hey, what's going on? I was just telling you that my cheeks are hurting already. So thank you so much for the compliment. It means a lot to me.
No,
That's
for real.
what we do here.
Exactly.
I'll pour it on. Fill my cup. I'm
Yes. Receive it, my friend. Receive it. No, but like I was telling you, most of my audience already knows you because for the longest time, they knew that I would suggest, different podcasts that I would listen to. And you typically are one of the ones that I would, request a lot that they listen to. You were one of the main reasons that I even considered doing my own podcast. Mm-hmm. And like I told you when I met you in San Diego for your meet and greet, I want to be the female version of you and make the impact that you do because you make such an impact. And before I forget, I have to give you a compliment that you're totally going to love because I'm not sure if you know, but I'm a medical doctor, so I'm an anesthesiologist. And so I have a lot of people that are in the medical field that follow me on my social media. And one of my nurse practitioners who follows me on the East Coast, she said, tell him that all of my male doctors that I've told to listen to feel cool when they listen to him.
Oh, wow.
I know, right?
Such a great compliment, especially for the guys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you know what's so funny is like, that was my intention when I started this. I knew that I had this kind of ability with communication, and it just goes way back to something I came across early on, which was a quote from Einstein that, if you can't explain it simply, then you don't know it well enough.
Amen.
So making these very complex things, because, and I started off doing this when I write articles and I do talks to make complicated materials sound complicated, just for the sake of like, I'm this,
I'm smart.
Very well-read.
Yes.
And I'm educated, college degree, hear me. No, it's not about that. It's about being yourself, number one. And number two, packaging up the information so that it can actually reach people.
Amen.
Yeah.
Because here's the crazy thing is, it doesn't matter what you say. The person has to make a decision to accept it.
Yes.
Right. And that's where the master really does their work, is helping that beautiful situation to take place. Yes.
And transform into actual action. Listen and take action for sure. Well, I think that's a perfect segue to talk about what both Cinthanie and I want to talk about today. Cause we powwowed yesterday and we're like, okay, have you thought about what you want to talk about? And I've been thinking about it for the past couple of weeks because, people that follow you, there's so many different ways that you help them out. Obviously, nutrition, health, fitness, sleep, all of the different things that you do to help educate people. But one thing that I haven't heard a podcast you talk about this yet, and haven't heard from any other area on social media, but you're a freaking entrepreneurial genius.
Mm-hmm.
No kidding.
And you have a really cool journey as an entrepreneur. And I know that we always talk about how you have so much information to give and make it so human in the process that you share medicine and fitness and health. But there's kind of like this behind the curtain version of you that is so much entrepreneur that I never feel like you never get to really talk about.
Oh man, I would love to talk about this.
Yes.
We're going to do it.
It's all tied into our well-being.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's all encompassing.
So I'll start off by saying, I posted the picture that you and I took together in Solano Beach back in the fall. And I said, okay, because all of my fans know that I'm about to interview I'm trying not to fangirl, right? So post your questions because I can ask him anything. Well, not anything, but you know what I mean. And so one of the very first questions that we wanted to ask you from DeLorean, she asked, what is your ethnicity and your background?
This is nuts. Let me tell you, just last week, I just did an episode of my show where this is the first time I've ever talked about it.
Really?
Yes. And so it comes out on Valentine's Day because the show is about love, but it's self-love. So we're talking about a little bit of the science behind it, but more tactics, more
Right.
insight on how this programming takes place. And so I guess the reveal is going to happen here first. I mean,
Sorry,
just
dude.
to make it simple. I mean, for the sake of the podcast, because I didn't want to get too complicated, but I'll add in a few. I'm a melting pot, you know.
Okay. Okay.
And even on the show, I was like, people like, is he like a Bruno Mars? Like, I don't know. Like, what is it? What is it? You know?
I love it.
And you know, but to really make it simple, my mom is mostly white.
Okay.
You know, her dad is largely Cherokee Indian. Like he really, you know, he's got that, like, and it's so funny. He's like super red, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, so I think he's maybe 3/4 or half.
Okay.
But, you know, she's mostly white. And then my father is black. So those three components mainly.
Melting pot.
So that's what, creates my appearance.
I love it. I love it. Cause it's funny. Cause, you know, I don't have near the social media following that you do, but I've got a decent sized following, and they've watched me over the last couple of years. Cause I went through divorce and now I'm single and dating, all that kind of good stuff. And they know that like the stereotype that I like, and you know, they were like, well, what about this guy? I'm like, no, he is happily married. And your wife, I just want to give a shout out to your wife, because watching her on your Instagram stories, like she keeps up with you.
Oh man.
I mean, she's like beast mode. I love it.
Right. I was going to say like baby beast, but I don't want to that's her, you know, she really does do her thing.
No, but you know, I love women like her that, I mean, it's just like she makes strong sexy, you know?
Yeah.
So,
oh my goodness, she sure does, you know, and this was like, you know, just kind of teeter back a little bit with even my ethnicity and what I talked about in this episode. You know, all of these things really boil down to this concept of self-acceptance and also embracing, like, being a better version of what you already are. You know, first of all, acknowledging the fact that you are awesome.
Absolutely.
You know, there's another level. And so whether that's with, you know, strength and feeling physically stronger and more capable, which is what I really love to see. And I really have been employing that in the community for women specifically. But also, you know, with myself and kind of those two parallel worlds that I lived in, you know, living with the white part of my family early on and then the black part of my family, and not really fitting in and having some, you know, some kind of, you know, I could say traumatic experiences in both. And eventually finding a place to just having self-value and just knowing that I matter, because I battled with that for a long time. You know, I just felt like I always had to prove myself. And what that led to was me getting into a lot of trouble, you know, ironically, you know, like I'd prove myself academically, you know, getting these, you know, and it was so crazy. It's like my son now goes to the high school that I went to.
Oh, and, crazy.
You know, I had, you know, 3.8 GPA, not trying. All right. Like, I was in student government. I was in Inroads, like, which was college program while in high school and all this stuff. And I'm not saying this to toot my own horn, because I didn't realize any of that stuff was like, I was just trying to prove myself, right? And to prove to who, I don't know. And then what I would do on the other side is I can't be this nerdy kid. So I have to fight. I have to show out and, you know, prove myself that I'm, you know, I'm this and I'm that, and ended up getting kicked out of school. Like, it didn't matter how good my grades are.
Right.
Get kicked out.
Right.
You know, which I did, you know.
Right.
And so, you know, all of that just to say that, you know, all of these processes of acknowledging, you know, even your background or the things that you're interested in, it's all just a beautiful kind of a metamorphosis and transformation of you becoming the best you.
Absolutely. You know, and this is, people like you are such, like, I just want to dissect your brain, because there's so many people that, you know, I kind of know your background. I've heard you talk about your background, and you definitely were not, you know, given a silver spoon by any means. And when I meet someone like you who has been given a platter of beep, and yet you not just overcame it, but I mean, you've like taken it by the horns, and you just like, what made you be that person instead of being another stereotype, another statistic of just getting lost from life? Man,
that is such a great question, because I could have easily, at so many turns, you know, I had my first child, my daughter, when I was in high school. All right. Like, things would just look, even with like, I'm this great student and I've got, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just parallel universes. But there was this constant thread of of fear, of deprivation, of not enough, of needing to feel approval, of needing to feel loved, which we all need those things, but I was lacking them in the way that I was brought up. Like, and I don't want to get into, like, this is not about to be a sob story, but
No, not at all.
just like I can't remember my mom hugging me, right?
Yeah.
Those kind of things. I'm sure she held me and took care of me when I was a baby,
Right.
but just in my like adolescent years, like, this is just not something we did. Like, it's not because she didn't love me. She wanted me to be tough, right? She wanted me to be able to take care of myself, and I did.
Right.
You know? And I left the house 17, graduated from high school. I was out. All right. But I still had all of those programs and trainings because in our environment, you know, I definitely, you know, my mom didn't pay a nickel for my school because she didn't have it.
Right.
And so, you know, I had to get scholarships and student loans eventually, once I got kicked out of college the first time for fighting again. But
I've heard that story.
going back, you know, to the next college, I ended up having to get student loans and all these things. And so I'm just going to give you guys like the low point to see where I came from. When I was in college and dealing with this degenerative spinal condition where my health was just trashed, and I'm at the lowest state in my life. Like, this is the lowest point ever for me. My mother, who, you know, she's the type of person that if you're down and out, she'll do anything to help you.
Okay.
But if you're doing better than her, she will take advantage of you.
Oh.
And so I was no longer under her roof. So she borrowed some money from me that I didn't have. I literally had this money from my refund check from school. And so I loaned it to my mom, and my rent is due. And I'm like, Mom, I have to pay my rent in, you know, 2 weeks. And she's like, you know, I promise. And so cut to week later, not answering my calls, no text back, that kind of thing. And like, I don't have enough money to pay my rent. All right.
Right.
And 2 weeks later, I call from a different number, and she picks up, and she's like, I sent the check. I mailed it to the rent office. First of all, how you know the damn rent office? You know, it's just like all of these stories, you know.
You calling her BS.
Bottom line was, my own mother would have had me out on the street.
Wow.
All right. And I didn't have money to even pay my own rent and to take care of myself, you know, let alone like food and utilities. Like, I was going to stand in line to get like, you know, subsidies, like government subsidies, things to pay, you know. And my story was, oh, I'm injured, I'm hurt, I can't work, you know, which I was in a lot of pain, but it was the story that I was carrying. And one of the big things that I did get from my environment was, you show up and you go to work. And if you can't do that, you're nothing. Right.
Yeah.
And so fast forward the story to get into the transformation and how did things change. You know what's so crazy is that I think, and again, I don't want to make this too like
no
gushy. And you guys like, no more gushy.
We're girls. We like gushy.
But I'm sure it's coming to a point. So you're good. Keep going.
You know, I think that love has a lot to do with me becoming successful, you know, as an entrepreneur and financially and that kind of thing. And it was meeting my wife. And, you know, we were both in college where we met, and she exposed me to different things. You know, she's from a different country, and I hadn't even been on a flight. Like, she took me to, you know, like my first flight when I was 25 years old. This is just after graduation. And this again, it's 25. Like, what? How'd you graduate 25? This is after getting kicked out multiple times. All right, but I graduated.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but
you know, changing my perspective. Right. And me starting to get around as I was improving my health. I started to, you know, receive this attention and energy from other people of like, you know, I want what you have.
Right.
And so people asking me to help them. And so level one is I'm helping because of my desire to serve. And that's beautiful. But the problem is this: at a point, and I know you know this, you will expend your own life energy to help other people. So I started to come out at the short end of the stick, where I would go to people's houses. I would do whatever it takes, you know. And I've got, you know, people, I've even put this on my show in the show notes, like before and after breast cancer scans of a patient I work with for just 1 month, and seeing the tumor shrink 50% just in a month, you know. And so I was driven to see those stories, but that kind of work takes a huge emotional toll. And behind the scenes, if you're not taking care of your own life structures, you start doing things you start sacrificing and doing things that you wouldn't normally do for money. Right. And that was really scary to me because I didn't want to end up like my mom.
No.
Right. And so that it all clicked when I realized how much I was putting out and me blocking the good things that wanted to come into my life. All right. And so
a natural defense mechanism, though, from your life experience up until that point. That protected you from a lot of crap. But at some point, you got to stop blocking it and start receiving it.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And for me, it was the bridge was my wife and realizing like I had even been like blocking love and all those things. But once I opened up the door to that, to not just because I was good at loving, I was good at loving her, but being loved and feeling like somebody had my back, I just didn't get it.
So do you think that her love was the first time you ever actually experienced unconditional love?
No, I wouldn't say that. I have kids, so that was another big driving point for me. Having my daughter and son really early on, and wanting to be a better example for them as well, and so it's so funny you asked that question. So those were the two catalysts, was my legacy and also my present. And so and this is huge, and I want people to really get this. I'm also, and this was like a transformation for me because, we got a lot of weird stuff when it comes to money, especially if you don't grow up with a lot of it. We have these ideas like even money, like people with money are bad. You know? And like, even in the movies, it's always the rich, evil villain,
Always.
Yeah.
And, but in reality, I can give more now. I can serve more now. I can do anything I want to help people. Right. And so changing my beliefs about money was a kind of huge thing. But I realized that, and I haven't ever talked about this before, so this is kind of difficult.
Yes.
I realized that when people were wanting to pay me, to create their nutrition programs and things like that, and, doing extra things that I would just take money off for no reason, and them wanting to take care of me. And I realized that I was blocking their blessings. I realized that I was being selfish because they were putting something out so that good things can come back to them as well. And I randomly have people like, write me a check for just a random $1,000 check in the mail and these kind of things. And I needed it.
Thank you, universe.
I would be like, you can't do this. No, I will not accept this, but I realized that, this is really the value that I'm giving out.
Absolutely.
If I help somebody to, they could potentially die from diabetes and they no longer have diabetes. How valuable is that? I need to stop and accept, get my life structures taken care of, bring that money in, and it's okay. And also continue to give my gifts. So that's some foundational, mental stuff behind it. But the actual entrepreneur pieces, we could talk about that as well.
Yeah. Go ahead, Cinthanie. What were you going to ask?
I think that you sharing that process, though, is so important, especially for somebody that's in my age, that's in their 20s, and they're still going through that exact process where there's still so many moving parts. And you're in this transition where you have your limiting beliefs that you absorbed as a child. And then you're an adult and you can kind of decide where you're going to place your energy, what you're protecting your energy from, who you will allow it to be a part of, your belief system changes at this process. And so hearing where you have come from and where you are now, I think is a huge because people from my age, it's so validating to know that they're not the only person that's feeling that way or going through that process. And that doesn't have to always end up the way that they feel like it is going to.
Yes. Oh, let me say something here. This is so important. Now, this is just logic. All right. Basic logic. I could see 10 clients. All right. We'll just say when I was a strength and conditioning coach, and maybe it's $10 an hour. All right. I'm just giving an example.
Okay.
10 clients in a day, $10 an hour. So I make $100. All right. And I give everything I have, but that 10 people, that's 10 hours. That's and then I got to try to sleep and try to exercise myself, try to get my nutrition, all that stuff. It becomes complicated. Or I can see 4 people, $25 an hour, really give them above and beyond service. I'm showing up better because I'm taking care of myself, right? They get better results. All of these things are just logical things, but it's our value. And here's the thing, especially as an entrepreneur, you get to decide. You get to pick what that is, because literally I've done the $10 an hour. One day I finally decided it's $50 an hour. And guess what? People paid $50 an hour.
Hell yeah, they did.
Yeah.
And guess what? They got even better results, because here's another interesting thing about human psychology is the investment.
So
a lot of times people don't value things when they're not getting it at a premium.
So
Like
true.
here's a look, real talk. And ladies, like there's a Gucci, you got the Gucci purse, and you've got,
I'm in Orange County. I'm surrounded by that.
you've got the, the Michael Kors, and then you've got like the, the random,
TJ Maxx.
Yeah, you got the TJ Maxx jump off, like shopping at TJ Maxx, which is floor shopping.
Yeah.
How did all this stuff end up on the floor? Somebody's like, oh, I don't like this shirt. I don't like this pants. It's the craziest thing. So you've got those different things, but here's the thing. They're all made of the same material, maybe even at the same place.
Yep.
But it's the value attached to it.
So
right?
true.
And so we will pay extra for the value, and we will embrace it more, and we'll take better care of it because we did. All right. So crazy. And of course, some of us are like, no, of course not. I value things that are free. Free is my favorite price. Like, I enjoy that.
Free 99.
But I also had to flip a switch in my consciousness to not just see the object as like, this is free, but to embrace the total experience. Like, even like yesterday, I bought some tickets to the new Black Panther movie coming out next month, and you get like a free poster. So I could just be like, whatever, free poster, but I'm just like embracing it. Like, man, like somebody designed this. I'm going to put it downstairs in my like little man cave. Like, I really embraced it instead of making it like, it's free. It's not a big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be people that like, hey, but in general, this is a unconscious human occurrence where if we're not investing something and making it even uncomfortable for us, a lot of times we really don't appreciate the value.
Well, and it starts off with you valuing yourself, because so many people don't realize that ultimately you giving away $10 an hour session, you're devaluing yourself, because you know that what you give, and it's worth so much more.
Yeah.
So
you receive the respect that you demand, essentially. The standard that you hold yourself to is what you're teaching other people around you to hold you to.
Absolutely. So when you went to college, like when people asked you, what do you want to be when you grow up? What did you say?
Oh man. First of all, nobody asked me. Second of all, if they did, I probably just, like, I just want to be alive. I just want to really. When I went to college, this is so funny. Because of the environment, it's all about environment and exposure. But I was exposed to if you're going to be a successful, person of color, I had the Cosby Show, which thanks, Bill, messed it up for us.
Yeah, for real.
Pill dropping. Never mind. All right,
yeah. I was a big fan though too. I'll just say that.
Doctor, like I'm going to be a doctor, right? And so, but here's the problem. And when I went to school, I decided to do the pre-med track, but I literally hated science.
Yeah.
So it's just like,
that's not good.
Sense,
Yeah, no.
But I thought this was something that I was supposed to do.
Right.
And so very quickly I transitioned over because of another exposure. This is so funny that the medium influenced me so much, but it was Boomerang, the movie with Eddie Murphy, Halle Berry, classic.
Oh yeah, total classic.
He was this marketing executive, and it's just like doing these marketing campaigns, and and I just thought it was so fascinating, and he made it look so good. I was like, I'm gonna do that.
I'm gonna be him.
Shifted over, and I have two majors. Right at the end of the day, biology and marketing. I actually have a finance
opposite end of the spectrum.
This is nuts, right? I have a finance certificate, like I don't even know what it's called, like from something from that I got when I graduated, right? It's corporate finance certificate. And I don't know, I'm telling you, like, I don't know a thing about like an integer, like I don't know. But I know about the body now. And what it was the change really happened because it became something more visceral and like deeply connected, and I think that's a big problem with education. Why kids don't enjoy biology and anatomy, human physiology, that kind of stuff, is because it's like so abstract and external, right? Instead of like making it something that really relates to you. Yeah. And so my son, it's just true story, in high school, when I got kicked out in high school,
you got to clarify that.
My biggest struggle was in human anatomy class. Like,
no,
it was, I still, like, even a couple years ago, I had a bad dream about it. All right?
no
I was like, I
way.
didn't have my, yes. But my
That's
son,
crazy.
who, he'll tell you, like, he's not the most, like, adamant student. Like, he can execute, but this kid got an A in that class, like, because of the visceral connection. It's one of the hardest classes at the school. And this is
Yeah.
the second school in the state. And so he's passionate about, like, understanding the body, and because he wants to work with people. Like, that's kind of one of the things he wants to do is like, be a trainer, open a gym, that kind of thing. So helping people to have a personal experience with things always enlivens education.
And I got to give a shout out to him because, I'm a dancer, right? And I see him and your younger son dance on your Insta stories. They got major skills. I'm not going to lie. Shout out to both your sons.
I'm not going to say where they got it.
I was
just gonna throw it out there. But yeah, no, really, I just, it's such a great joy to watch those two. They're like, they're, totally amazing.
No, I definitely enjoy watching your stories for sure on Instagram. So, okay. So you have multiple degrees and then you graduate from college and you're like, okay, what's next?
Yeah. And so, because of my experience in college, I got well in college and I still had a semester and a half left of school. So I shifted all of my coursework over to everything in biology that I could.
Okay.
And so when I graduated, I had full intention of opening a gym at first because I was a strength and conditioning coach initially.
Okay.
And this is some real stuff. There was a phase in college where I was making more money than some of my professors.
No way.
Oh yeah. And, working at such an environment like that. And here's the thing about that experience of, like, being a trainer, especially if you get exposure and people see you and see the people you're working with, it's like, it sells itself. So, I didn't really have to, like, pitch anything. It's just like, you saw this, this is what it costs, And so when I graduated, but here's the thing, I didn't want to open a gym. That's just something I thought I should do.
Right.
I saw my skill set, and this was before I graduated, really manifest in helping people deal with chronic illnesses. And so this was because of, like, I went through my own so-called incurable thing and hearing these stories from other people. And so that's where I wanted to focus. And I decided to open up a clinical practice and do some consulting work with nutrition. And so it took a couple of years before I opened my office, and I was like, again, going to people's houses and creating programs and that kind of thing. And it actually took my money down because the training thing was pretty easy. Right. I had that system down, but it wasn't there. It didn't feel right because I knew that I could help more people with this.
You weren't fulfilled.
And so let me give you guys I don't even know why I'm about to share this right now. So valuable. This changed everything. It took years for me to get this. Instead of me having this cookie cutter program, having packages changed the game. All right.
Really?
Having a low end, like, just really bare bones package, having that mid-range package, and then having, like, a high tier, like, this is the executive, you get all this stuff, you get the home visits.
Right.
And so that weeds out a lot of people, and a lot of people will jump in the middle package just by the very nature of having packages. Right.
Right.
And so, but also this allowed me to focus my time more because I might have 2 or 3 people with the, platinum package where I'm designing their programs. I'm giving them, fitness programs as well. Buying them products and sending them supplements, like all this stuff that we would do.
Right.
And, but it wasn't until just that concept, again, entrepreneurs out there, create packages. All right. Let people choose what best suits them and their needs.
So it's crazy that you say this because just last Thursday, I had an all-day consulting day with an entrepreneurial coach. And that's exactly the advice he gave me. And we came up with packages, the small tier, the middle tier. So what you're saying is good advice.
Who knew?
Because this guy gets paid a lot to consult and coach entrepreneurs like myself.
Everybody got that for free.
For free.
Just do it.
Exactly.
Well, now, I feel like on your end of it, though, it also helps you to identify what level of commitment your clients or customers are at, where they're at, if they're really all in on this, if they're just kind of like, I want to do something about it, but I'm not completely committed yet. I think that really helps you to identify where they're at and what process they're ready to be a part of.
I totally agree with that. Totally. And one other thing with that is, within the context of, of even, having an entrepreneurial venture, I think is really important. And this is what I'm about to say is I'm a very analytical, science-based person. All right.
Right.
But there's no real science to back this up, but you have to listen to your intuition.
Oh.
Right. I started, I would do some of the things that, again, like earlier on, I saw the same behavior pattern start when I took this new venture, that I stopped doing with the personal training, but I started to do it again where I would start to sacrifice and say yes to things that I really shouldn't. Right. I'd work with people knowing like this isn't a good fit. This isn't like I'm going to have to like be the parent. I'm going to have to be, this or that, like things that were not right for me.
Right. And your gut was telling you it's not right, but you didn't listen. Because
of money. And you should never do anything that doesn't feel right because of money. And also, you should never, and I really want everybody to get this today, money should never be the reason that you don't do something that you really want to do. Say
that again. You need to say that again.
Money should never be the reason that you don't do something that you truly want to do in your heart. There is always a way. There is always a way. Where there's a will, there's 1,000 ways.
Yes.
Right. And so a big part of this, and again, so I start to create that, like, there's like an invisible velvet rope, like an invisible barrier of like who actually gets in, because not only do you want to do, and I think, real talk, there is a period where you just need to get in and grind, especially beginning. But as quickly as you can identify these principles and transition out of it, the better.
Yeah.
And so not only did I want to do work to help people, but I deserve to feel good too. I deserve to have people who appreciate me. I deserve to work with people who also inspire and teach me as well.
Yeah.
My very last client before I closed my practice, before I closed my strength and conditioning practice, was somebody who ended up like, he was really my mentor as well. And, this is a guy, I think he's 83 now. He's still one of my friends, like really good friends. And I think he was like 75 at the time, 76 or something when I met him. And he had a fall. He wasn't very mobile. He couldn't really move his arm above his shoulder right here. Got him completely functional. Like I put videos, this was like a couple years ago, with him doing push-ups on Instagram and all this stuff.
Nice.
But he taught me some basic principles about finance I had never considered because I wasn't around it.
Right.
He's,
like, again, for example.
Right. So
please do tell.
He's a multimillionaire.
Yep.
Who, again, he came from nothing. He's a Jewish guy, and his community, there was some signs there and people that he could associate with that he learned about. But his dad, he just kind of like a blue collar type of situation. They had enough money like for him to go to school, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And they knew that it was important for him, even though they could support him a little bit more, for him to start from the bottom, and like he figured it out. And so bottom line, he ended up having like 200 employees, all his consulting firm, like he built malls and stuff like this. And one of the things that he taught me about, and this is so basic, but just particular accounts where you even put your money, so like there's a MOS account, which I don't know if you guys have that there. I think this is a Missouri thing. Yeah, it is a Missouri thing. Like for your kids, like they'll end up like doubling a certain amount of money for your kids' college and things like that.
Okay, yeah.
Like stuff that saves me so much money and grows my money as well,
Right.
And not just putting my money freaking whatever, Bank of America.
Right.
No
and this is something that you were not taught.
I had no idea.
No,
Yeah.
So letting your money work for you, like you work so hard for it. There's a system going on that is happening regardless of you.
Right. That if you weren't born into privilege, you don't have anyone in your family telling you, hey, you should do this now that you're adulting.
Exactly. And, things like index funds, if people don't know about that, this is a really simple, easy way to enter the market. And the index funds, pretty much every year you win, and it's very, I don't want to get into this. This is like really get into a whole different area.
But this gives us an idea of how your entrepreneurial mind works, because that's ultimately what I want people to walk. Because I mean, let's be honest, people can go and follow you on your podcast. They can buy your book, Sleep Smarter, which is awesome, available on audio too, which that's what I do, and learn so much great, amazing nuggets from you. But I want to learn how to be a freaking killer entrepreneur like you. And this goes into it, because if you're not smart with your money, you ain't going to be a good entrepreneur.
You can make a ton of money, but that doesn't mean you know how to manage it.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. And this is also one of the mental things is, and I saw this with my mom, she might get a settlement, right? From, some injury or something at work. And, we'd be up $5,000, $10,000 and it's gone. Like that. A month later, it's just like, because the money thermometer that you're carrying is like, and I want everybody to do this today. Like look at what your bank account usually hovers around. There's probably a certain dollar amount that you generally always have. Right. If you happen to spend more and get down a little bit, it'll get elevated back up to it. Or if you happen to make more, it'll get brought back down to it. Like there's a certain level. You have to consciously decide what amount of income or money that you want to consistently have. So I like that. I went from being 100-aire to a millionaire, right? Just kind of hovering around, to the 10,000s, 100,000, six figures, all that kind of stuff and on. And it was all from number one, I had to change this reality that like I would get money and then I would find creative ways for it to part with me. Yeah. And understand that there's going to be some things that come up. You have to insure yourself against it. You have to realize, this is what this thing is. It's trying to bring my set point back. And so you have to really work through that stuff. And I want to share another entrepreneurial point here. So of course I mentioned the packages. I think that's a really wonderful idea. But what I'm about to share is super simple, but we just don't do it. All right. Now, especially today, there is like no barrier of entry for you to create products or give services to people all over the world. Right. Yeah. There's no barrier. That said, there's a lot of competition, but most of it's crummy. All right. So you don't have to be worried about that.
So true.
If you really want to be successful in whatever thing that you're interested in, whether it's like, I don't know, baseball cards or whatever it is, I
thought you were going to say basket weaving. Baseball cards. That's it.
Okay. There you go. Basket weaving. All right. If you want to be successful in that, or like knitting, like there's a big market for, like, you can literally set up your thing. There are people who are doing knitting projects who are making millions of dollars online. And then there are people who are making $12s of dollars. Yeah, right? $12. And their products oftentimes are very similar. What's the difference? These other people that are doing it at this high level are just doing it in a certain way.
Yeah.
And so it's all about, number one, you have to have a level of excellence. Number two, consistency. All right. I can't stress this enough. The reason that my show has been successful is simply because it's the most consistent thing I've ever done in my life outside of loving my family, just showing up, executing, getting a little better every time, get a little bit better every day. And as I'm doing this, because when I started, I didn't have any show sponsorship, for example, and I wasn't concerned about that. Like I just wanted to give value.
Right.
But eventually, I'm probably one of the most, as far as the revenue from that, than any podcast out there. Yeah. And not only that, I don't want you to sacrifice your standards.
Right.
The only things that I promote on my show, in those small segments that I do talk about, are things that I'm passionate about, that I love and I use myself. So never sacrifice your integrity. So that's number 3. So, but the consistency one is such a huge point. Just be consistent, keep doing your posts, keep doing your YouTube videos. Lauren knows this intimately.
Oh yeah.
All of a sudden, like, you're going to start seeing the influx happen, but you have to stay dedicated, because how many people are just like, they think they're an entrepreneur, but they're really like, what's the word? They're what's a good word for this? They're a see what happened-preneur. Let me see what happens.
I like that.
Entrepreneur. Yeah, I'm just gonna try, but you're not really, because you know how many podcasts are out there? Like probably like 200,000 podcasts.
Yeah.
But do you know how many get started each day? Probably hundreds. Probably more. You know how many are doing it after 6 months? Maybe 5% of them. Maybe 10%.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
The great ones, they just keep executing, even despite the appearance of like, this isn't working, whatever.
Yeah.
You don't want to be stupid. Like, if you've done, 20 episodes of your podcast and nobody's listened to it but your mom, maybe it's not the thing for you.
Right?
You know what I'm saying? If you have any kind of thing, any feedback from your environment that, hey, this is something that is bringing
making a
value
difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
moving forward, stay consistent.
Yes.
And keep yourself open to be able to monetize that.
Now, what made you decide to do the podcast? Because you've been doing it like 4 or 5 years, right?
Mm.
I mean, you got into it way before anyone knew what a podcast was.
Yeah, I was getting into the 5th year. But when I got into it, this was like really starting to take off, this medium. But here's the thing, and I don't know if you know this, but I've said this a couple of times. I had a podcast before this.
Oh, I haven't heard that. No.
I did not know that.
Reveal alert.
Yeah.
I had a podcast before
Sean tells all.
Yeah.
But it wasn't my podcast. Even though I say I had a podcast, it wasn't my podcast. This
Okay. I remember. Yeah. I did know that for sure.
It's they had a big online, like kind of magazine, health magazine type thing. And for me, like I had barely any traffic coming to my website. I just really got into the online space. And the reason I did that to get online, where I had this brick and mortar business that was pretty successful at this point, was scalability. Like I had to go on my own sweat equity, how many people I could work with.
Right.
Whereas when I work online, I could start to create products and extend services out that can, basically, it's not scalable to just work with people one-on-one.
No.
Right.
No.
And also, here's the biggest driving force for me. And this is just to be open and upfront about this. My wife wasn't really vibing with this when we, boyfriend, girlfriend, but my biggest driving force is impact,
Yeah.
And so like many times that's how it got me in a situation where I wasn't making a lot of money because I just really wanted to help people.
Right.
And that should be a given, right? You shouldn't have to like defend yourself and tell people like, I just really want to help people.
Yeah.
And try to justify why you're making money too.
Right. Exactly.
That just don't even worry about that. If anybody questions that, like you got to know yourself in your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I was doing this, got online, and they came along. They had 100,000 unique visitors a month or something like that.
Okay.
This was like back in 2011, 2010, I think, which was just like, what? How?
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
So they told me that, they had a falling out with this other guy who's like a big name in nutrition. And at the time, like, I was like, wow. And so they needed a face, right, for their podcast, somebody to do it. And I think they had just done 2 episodes.
And you were like,
they saw me do a TED Talk. It was like this synchronicity experience. And I think, of course, Jim Quick from my show is a really good friend. Jim introduced him to me. He's always like been there. He's like this little secret magical gnome who has a really great memory. But anyways, and so they told me about it. We talked a little bit. And it was like, we think you'd be perfect. And I said, okay, but what is a podcast? Like I didn't even know what it was. And so I did about 2 years of that podcast by myself. This is why you're already a genius, because you have a team, you got people supporting you. Yeah. I'd be behind this microphone here, the same one, because I have a studio now for my show, right?
Oh yeah.
But this microphone, hours upon hours upon hours of just creating this content and doing all this stuff by myself, editing the shows, and I give it to them. I do 99% of the work, and guess what? I probably get 10% of the revenue or 20% of the revenue. Like we'd have a guest on, or money would come in, affiliate kind of stuff. And my wife one day, she was like, "No, you have to stop. You have to stop doing this." And so I was building their brand, and I'd done like 2 blog posts over this time period, and so eventually we amicably parted ways.
That's
and
good.
I created my own brand. I created my own show, the Model Health Show. And with that said, I had found my voice, the authentic voice at this point. So right out of the gate, I mean, people literally, like I just saw a message on Twitter, somebody's going back, they just listened to the first 11 episodes. Every day, people are going, like, we're talking hundreds of people every week. From episode 1, 250, 260 something episodes.
Binge listening to you.
And it's because I came into it with the experience. Now, you don't have to go and have a show that you screw up first. You work really hard. You can do it now and just understand the process. You'll get
just evolving.
And so the podcast medium, I chose it because I had the experience in it, number one, and I saw the response. And I knew that there was something about my communication,
You got a great voice. Let's just put it out there. You've got a great voice.
So that was a really positive benefit. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, people like, well, you don't have a face for radio, or you don't have a face for TV, or whatever it is. Just like, yeah, I could do the video thing as well. And we're starting to do a little bit more. But for me, I love the fact that I get to go with people anywhere. They get to do whatever they want to do. If they're in their car, if they're, you know, out walking, if they're hanging out at home, just kicking back, I get to be with them, you know, and I just thought that was really powerful.
How do you choose who you're going to interview?
Wow. So for me, it's evolved. The number one thing has been, I've never shared this before. The number one thing has been people that have helped to create my character, people who've helped to change my life, and people that I've learned from. That was my number one hallmark. And so only recently, maybe the last, you know, year, 2 years, have all of that really come to fruition with having Dr. Bruce Lipton on the show, who's, you know, the biology of belief, and just literally changed my perspective. Like, after I heard him do a lecture, I saw through different eyes, you know.
Mind blown. Yeah.
Dr. Daniel Goleman, who wrote Emotional Intelligence, and all these things that people talk about in culture that I was on years ago, you know. So that's number one. Number two, I really strive for my audience and for my show to bring on the very best people in the world in their respective field. And so I'm going to give you guys a little heads up. I don't know when this is coming out, but next week for my show, I'm having on, and you got to come. Oh man, it's going to be in San Diego.
Okay.
So do you know?
Twist my arm. Yes, I'll be there.
You know Bedros Koulian?
Yeah.
Bedros is like becoming the man around town, but he's been the man.
Yeah.
So he's on the show coming out next week. It's one of my favorite all-time shows, man. Just every show is like my baby. Some are like, this child is gay, right?
Yeah.
So having the opportunity to, you know, like somebody like Bedros, who his story is remarkable, which you'll get to hear where he comes from, but the level of impact that he's making, he's got over like 620 gyms now across the country and across the world. There's some that are international.
Yeah.
He was sleeping in his car homeless, you know, not that long ago, right? And he's incredibly wealthy and successful, but there's a string that he has of like, you know, this is a good person.
Yeah.
So, but he's about his business. And so people like that. So when I'm talking like, okay, we want to talk about the entrepreneur side of fitness. And the reason I even have that on my show, which is really a fitness and health focused show, is that what you do for a living. And this is why I'm glad you guys want to talk about this stuff. Deeply, deeply influences your health and your well-being. Because if it doesn't matter if you have the best diet in the world, you exercise daily. If you hate your job, this is about at least 1/3 of your life that you'd spend doing something that you don't want to do. I promise it's going to degrade your health. I promise it's going to damage your DNA. I promise it's going to give you high blood pressure. I promise it's going to damage your blood vessels. I promise it's going to screw up your insulin sensitivity. All right. Period.
Yes.
And so that's why I bring people like him on that have great stories, but also, you know, looking at like, man, I don't want the guy who just opened, you know, a CrossFit box.
Right.
This dude, he's the best.
Yeah.
You know? So that's really one of the things that I strive to do.
You know, it's crazy because that is one of the main reasons that I gave up practicing anesthesiology, because I was in the OR. So I practiced anesthesia first out of residency in Japan on a military base. And so I was there for 3 years, and I came back to the United States, and I was in Oklahoma, and it was just overwhelming. Every single patient that was on my table was like, man, if I could have just gotten to them 10 years ago, they wouldn't be here. And then I started to look at all of the people in the OR, and the surgeon that had been a surgeon for 20, 30 years, overweight, not happy. And like literally not everyone in the OR is like that, but most people are. And I'm like, I don't want to be that. And you spend so much time. Why, if you hate your job, and I didn't hate it, but there are a lot of parts that I hated, but I don't want to end up like that. But so many people fear the unknown and will stay in that because of fear. Yeah,
I totally agree. And you just said it. This is the big word right here, you know, and, you know, what's so funny is that only recently, this is maybe within the last couple of years, have I really started to understand, and talking with people like Bedros and hearing, you know, somebody who is like family more and more is Eric Thomas, who's largely considered like the top motivational speaker in the world.
Your interview with him was awesome, by the way. I loved that interview.
Thank you. Thank you. And so him, reiterating and sharing that, he gets nervous right before he goes on
Crazy.
stage. The number one person.
Yeah.
Right.
The hip hop preacher is where we can find him online, but that's crazy. He still gets nervous.
So when you hear about fear and the people who are successful, they still have it. They just do it anyways. They just move forward. It's not a matter of like, I have fear. I haven't mastered this yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Or the fear is an indication that you need to tuck your tail and run.
Right.
Yeah.
We're going to have fear if we move outside of our comfort zone. We're going to have fear if we have the opportunity to take things to another level.
So true.
So embrace it. Just understand, like, I'm going to have this fear, but it's just going to call. Guess what fear does a lot of times? It heightens your senses. It makes you to start to open your eyes and see things from another point of view or perspective. You can use fear instead of it taking advantage of you.
Yeah.
And I would go as far as to say that if you don't have some element of fear in your life, that needs to be your checkpoint. Like, hey, am I stagnant? Am I just living in mediocrity? Because, I think that's where so many people stay. And people like you and the two of us, we like to challenge that and get people to think outside of the box and face those fears.
Oh man, that's what I live for that. I live for that, to see people, because you could see it at any level. My brother-in-law, and I don't know if I did. I put this on social media. It's just like a blur, but I did a surprise birthday party for my wife, which he's born on New Year's Day.
Okay.
Right? He's born on New Year's Day, which is a problem. All right. It's not like this is not okay.
No.
Oh, it's New Year's, baby. Oh, it's okay. It's not.
No.
Because you got, Christmas right there. It's like kind of the New Year's Eve. So I decided, and I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm gonna throw a New Year's Eve / surprise birthday party for her. For the most nosy in my business person in the world. Because it really, like, she runs operations for us. So she's like always in my email. So it was not easy.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
The hardest part though was because her sister lives just like 4 hours drive away, but she hasn't been here for at least like 5 years.
Oh, wow.
But they talk every day. And so sneaking her sister into town, which was huge, like that I even got her sister to agree to come.
Oh man.
So
you got brownie points on that one.
Man, like I'm keep using them too.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
But so her sister and her husband came along as well. And so he's my brother-in-law. So it was so fascinating. His fit when I saw him, because I haven't seen him in years.
Yeah.
He's always been self-defined. He was always the fat kid. In his family, he was the one who wasn't in shape.
Yeah.
But he's the one who's like been trying to work out and trying to get it together for years. He stepped into my mother-in-law's house and it was like a totally different person. Like he had lost like, I think 50 or 80 pounds or something like that.
Wow.
He did a fitness competition and like, it's just amazing. It's amazing to see this, right? But he didn't do this through just beating himself down. He did it through a change in his mindset. Like he was listening to Eric Thomas, for example, and hearing this, and I'm just like, dude, like when we were out and I was like trying to expose him to different stuff he hasn't been around. Cause Springfield, it's like, I'm not saying it's like, Hicksville or nothing. If anybody's listening,
it's just different.
Brad Pitt's from Springfield, guys. All right? No disrespect. But like I took him, I think, what were we at? Nordstrom's or Neiman Marcus or something. I'm like, dude, you got to try this on, do this, and like dressing up this grown man who's never like put on anything outside of like, some Reeboks or whatever.
Right.
And, but he, I got him to share some things and talk about his work a little bit. Cause I know that's something he was bouncing around doing for many years. And he was like, Shawn, I got to be honest. This is my impersonation of him. I work at, this particular factory place.
Okay.
And he's like, when I try to elevate and try to get the employees to like, work better, to become more efficient, like let's all get together and do a better job and execute. He's like, he got pushback because there are older people there and they've been doing things a certain way. They don't want him messing up their system of like coasting.
Exactly.
And so he's like, you know what? To be honest, I really feel that I've been influenced by the environment and I just been coasting. I don't really feel like I'm bringing the best me out.
Yep.
So I'm like, what do you really want to do? And I already knew what it was. He's passionate about this fitness thing.
Of course, because it's changed his life.
What's transpired is now, like, as soon as he set the intention, as soon as he realized that this could happen, and he's been around me now, like he's seen, oh wait, because last time he saw me, I lived in an apartment.
Yeah,
right?
A little bit different.
He came out here. So look in my house. I don't know if you can see.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Right?
Oh.
I got a forest. Right? Now he sees the forest. He's like, okay, Shawn knows what he's
right.
talking about.
Okay, I got to listen to my brother-in-law.
Right? And so she started to pull in some of these principles. And here's how powerful we are. When he got home, within 48 hours, he had people messaging him on social media asking him for like a program, right? Or to me, had nobody doing this before, but he set the intention. And he did a couple of posts. This is what it was. Like he posted up his before and after. Like he posted up some pictures of him working out. And like there's people from, his town that have seen like, chubby Casey or fat Casey back in the day. And now they see him. It's like, what the hell did you do, man? Give me your secret.
And help me do the same thing.
Here's what happens though. Initially, he's like resistant to like charging people and just like, I don't know.
See it all the time.
And like my wife, she goes so hard. Like she gave him every, like, just you need to do this, you need to do that. I was like, babe, just one at a time. Right? Just one thing at a time. We got to go through the levels, but we all go through these phases, especially when we start to do the thing we're passionate about, of figuring out how to actually make this our livelihood.
Yeah.
What I want to say with all of that is the best thing that you can do is to learn from the people who've done it already. All right. Stop trying to do this on the strength of your own will. I know you got will. Do this, learn from the people who've already paved the way for you. And then you can also find your unique thing. All right. But don't start off stupid.
Yes.
Right? Don't be like me. Right? Don't try to figure this stuff out.
Don't start off stupid. That needs to be on a t-shirt.
Man, I had lone wolf syndrome so bad. Right?
Yeah.
And as soon as I opened up my reality to allowing people in, like, even my team with the show, I've got my engineer, I've got my producer, I've got people doing, my graphics, all that stuff. I do the stuff by myself.
Yeah.
But, and then we can look at finances like, oh, well, it's because of, I don't have money yet. Here's the thing. You're going to pay with your time or pay with your money. Things with the internet now, I mean, it is so, like, you can get a producer for a podcast. No disrespect to our guy here.
Yeah, right.
But, you can outsource this and maybe have, maybe somebody in another country, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That can do that for you and something that you can afford, or you can do it yourself, right? There's always a way. There's sites like Fiverr, like you're trying to get your banners done or whatever, $5, there's always a way. Stop coming out of the gate saying that it's not possible, right? That's the problem. Like, oh, I just, I can't.
That limiting mindset.
That's the thing we've got to address. I want people today to consciously, every time, catch themselves whenever they're saying that, I can't do this or this can't be done. Check yourself, because I promise somebody's done it. I promise somebody's already done it. All right.
Yeah. You better check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Exactly.
Literally.
Even outside of like, flying to, outer space, outside of that. Yeah. But guess what? Somebody's already done that as well.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Privately shooting up into outer space.
Yep.
Right? Done. Whatever you can conceive of, there is a way. Just follow the people that have left those little breadcrumbs of greatness.
Well, hence why we both had the idea of interviewing you on this topic, because we are learning from you. And literally, I feel like we could probably talk your ear off all freaking day, because you were just like full of all of these nuggets of wisdom. And I want to respect your time, but just, I know that this is going to be the most downloaded episode of the Fitz and Healthy podcast, because you are just, man, I just can't say enough amazing things about you. And there are so many questions that we had to ask, but I do definitely want to respect your time. The one that I want to make sure that we don't skip is, what's your next big challenge? Because you've tackled a lot of big stuff. So what's your next big challenge? What's next?
Ooh, this is so good. Oh man, this is good. Again, I haven't talked about this. So
yes.
The first thing I want to say to preface this is, if you're really going to be successful, like, whether it's in your health or your financial situation, your relationships, you want to jump into the discomfort. Don't make life have to force it upon you.
Yes.
If you can just get comfortable and start to embrace, like, I'm in love with challenge. Like I'm in love with something that really, not too much. Right? Let me be clear. I'm like that. I'm not trying to go and like take a,
right.
jiu-jitsu class and I haven't started. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that. But if you can just put your ease into it, right? Just stretch yourself. Stop coasting. Put yourself in situations and circumstances where you have to grow. That is going to help you immensely. And so with that said, my next challenge, which again, I'm proactive at doing because nobody's making me do this.
No,
I'm good right now. I'm good. I can hang it up.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
I could just, anyway, so
you could easily coast.
There's two things, and it's kind of a tie. All right.
Okay.
Man, I haven't talked about this. So, okay. The thing that I wanted to really optimize this year, because my show, that system is really great.
It's a well-oiled machine for sure.
I've done a lot to optimize my online program, the Fat Loss Code in that community. And we actually have a new program coming out for them today. The two things the number one thing I want to optimize this year was speaking, and, to be honest, I have all these offers. Like I didn't even have a system with anybody replying to people. It's like, they were gonna bring me to London and like, whatever, so those kind of things. So having a good system set up where I do have a booking agent, but also just me being able to keep an eye on this stuff.
Yeah.
And, being able to have my contract and all that stuff just ready to go whenever it's,
presents itself.
Situation. Here's what happened, guys. Listen to this. All right. So I set this as the intention.
Okay.
All right. And this was last year, but can I say dicked around?
Yeah, of course.
I dicked around.
Say it.
I dicked around and I didn't really get to addressing it, right?
Yeah.
But because I had the intention and I just started taking some steps.
Yeah.
Eric Thomas. Who's the number one speaker in the world?
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Who do I need to like learn from? Come on now.
Duh.
And them respecting me so much and my craft and my gift. And like, together now we it's called Breathe University, that we all create these courses and things like that. But for them, like they feel like, and this is what they told me, they feel like they signed Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Right?
Hell yeah.
Because this is definitely a championship team,
Yeah.
And so, but it was because I made the decision, this is what I'm going to focus on. I started taking steps to it. And things, again, I don't want to get too airy fairy, but things start to shift in the universe, in the environment to make those things happen. Has it been easy? Absolutely not. No. I've had to get outside my comfort zone. You wouldn't believe. But that's another thing I had to open myself up to is like, again, I'm trying to figure out how am I going to make sure I'm optimizing my speaking strategy? And the reason I want to do it is not because of the money, right?
No.
I get a nice I had a nice fee.
Yeah.
But it's because it's one of the most fun and it's one of the most engaging experiences. And it's for the people, I'm really good at it. Like it's something that people really get a lot of value and have a great experience. Like literally you could transform somebody's life, right? From that moment that they're sitting in that chair and you say something and they can see your eyes and look at you and they can come and shake your hand afterwards and you can hug them. That can change the course of somebody's life, right?
Absolutely.
So how could I not, like, I'm being selfish if I'm
I was about to say, it would be selfish of you to not.
And so, but if I'm just trying to figure out on my own, how did I have a system? It's hard. And I can, but it's going to take more time. But life allowed for me to align myself with somebody of that greatness, And so that's the first thing of the challenge is the first event that we have. I don't know when this is coming out, but
it's coming out on Monday.
Okay. So here's the thing, guys. Listen. All right.
On my birthday, by the way.
Oh, happy birthday. See? Come on.
It's a good birthday gift for me.
All right. It's hot now. First event that we're all doing together is it's actually on a cruise. All right.
No way.
That's so awesome.
So it's called the Phenomenal Cruise. It's like a couple hundred people already. There's still some cabins available. It's going to be, we're going to St. Martin. We're going to the Virgin Islands. We're going to the Bahamas.
Stop it.
Right?
No.
So it's going to be like 7 days with ET, with me, with the team.
Oh, I'm there.
We're going to do workshops. We're going to do,
Oh, I am
we're gonna have
so
fun.
there.
Of course, we're going to the beaches. We're going to play. It's insane. How is that possible? Now,
I mean, for real.
Is that I'm not all the way comfortable about the cruise. Like I've never been on a cruise. Like, like this is discomfort, but it's a small discomfort, right?
Right.
Small discomfort. Here's the great part about it is that not only the work that I do, I can bring my family as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I created a life structure where my kids, like I got them their cabin, like we're all, and they get to be in this environment too. That's the first event we have coming up. This is in
please tell me the dates.
March 4th is when we head out. All right, so I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay.
It was phenomenal.
Make it happen.
That's where it is. And so that's number one. The other thing is, and I just saw the email this morning.
There's that sigh again.
So I'm going to say that my conscious, but really my conscious has a name, Anne, and that's my wife's name. So she's my conscious a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, with the success of Sleep Smarter, I, my agent, my literary agent's like, Shawn, you get the next book, right?
Yeah, of course. I know. I've been waiting.
And so, but number one, I really wanted to, it's an ethical thing. Like I really felt like I had more work to do with Sleep Smarter.
Right.
And still it's insane what's still happening with that book. Mm-hmm. So that's number one, because I really feel like I didn't achieve all I wanted to achieve with it, which my standards are really high.
I was gonna say, how do you figure that? It's an amazing book. Oh my gosh.
So it's the reach, it's the impact, it's the trickle down effect in society, and just like, here's just a little reference point for people. Like the audiobook, for example, came out almost 2 years ago.
Yep.
A little over a year and a half ago. And just this month, Audible featured the book as like one of their must-read books for 2018, because it's like, it's one of those like new year, new you need this book, right?
Yes.
I don't know those guys. You know what I'm saying? Like they didn't even tell me. It's just
no way.
The value is there. So I really want to make sure more people get it. So that's one thing that was like a little bit standoffish.
Okay.
Number two was I need to have my system set up, right? I need to have my systems for, my site. I need to have my systems for my speaking. Yeah. I don't want to bring another thing to my plate.
Smart.
And because I would have, if my wife didn't check me, I would have just started writing the next book. And I already know what it is. I've got the outline done.
Yeah.
I'm pumped. Like this is really in my wheelhouse.
Good.
But I just got the email today from my agent. He had sent me, again, it's another way entrepreneur. Huh?
Uh-huh.
He sent me some money. And he also in the note, he was like, we need to talk next book, smiley face, and I showed my wife, I was like, look, baby, see, I just gotta, but now that I'm doing the systems and she's seeing that, she's just like, I feel like she's more and more like, go fly.
Yeah.
Fly. So that's the next thing this year is working on that new book.
Because I've read your book 3 times. I've actually given it to a lot of people as gifts, and I mean I talk about it regularly. It's a great book, and I was just listening to it once again since the interview was coming up, and I was thinking, when is he gonna write another one? Because that book was so good. So yay! I'm so excited to hear this. March 4th is the cruise. I've got to get that on my calendar because I do not want to miss that. And I want to get my spot before this episode goes out. I'm just saying. But please let the audience know, because I'll just be honest with you. Pretty much, I would guess that 99.999% of people listening to this already know where to find you. But the people that don't know where to find you, can you tell them all of the places that you would like for them to go and find you?
Oh, awesome. So where they're listening to this, where you can find me on any podcast medium, we're on Spotify and iHeartRadio, iTunes, all that good stuff. It's called The Model Health Show. All right. So you can check me out there. And also we have themodelhealthshow.com. That's my home online. That's my habitat. All right. Yep. So you can find all my social media there. And I do a lot of cool stuff on social media. I just really got into it, this past year. And so people are really loving that. And especially Instagram. That's my
I don't follow too many people on Instagram, and you're one of the few people that I follow. So
I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, for sure.
And also we do videos of most of the episodes of the show, so you can check out videos as well. We haven't put too much into the to the video platform yet. We're going to do more of that coming up as well after systems. All right?
Yes.
But,
Systems first.
So that's it. The Model Health Show on your podcast medium, themodelhealthshow.com. And you can find everything that you want.
And so far at this moment in time, you only have one book, Sleep Smarter, which is available audio and actual text, or not text, but hard copy. And I highly recommend it to everyone, because that's an element that has been overlooked for years, that people just underestimate the importance of wanting to change your health. Start with your sleep. And there's so many great nuggets in that book. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. One thing that I did tell you when I met you in Solano Beach back in the fall was you are exactly what I thought you would be. You are genuine, authentic. You really do care. And I loved it because when you were at that meet and greet, a chick asked a question and she said her name and you knew her handle on Instagram. And because, and I'm sure that you get this on the same basis. Like when people realize that you actually know who they are, they're like, wait, really? It's you? And I'm like, yeah, I read all my messages. I actually care. And you are exactly what you portray to be. And I just want to give you praise and just say thank you for being the model that you are, because you really do set a standard for those of us that want to make an impact in the world, that really do have this Pollyanna type vision that I want to change the world. I really do. And I believe that like-minded people like us, like you, really can make this world a better place. So you are just an angel. Thank you so much. And we end every episode with a really important statement that Cinthanie, actually, it's her mantra, her affirmation. And Cinthanie, will you wrap this amazing show up for us?
I will. And before we close it out, though, I really want to just kind of pinpoint the message that I have received from this, because I really want it to resonate with the listeners. You talked so much about comfort and getting outside of your comfort zone. And it almost seems that the way that you have it is that comfort is an illusion. We are either uncomfortable with the fact that we're unfulfilled, we're not financially fulfilled, we're unfulfilled in our talents and what we can do, or we're uncomfortable because we're doing something about it. And so comfort is truly an illusion. We just have to decide whether we're cool just staying where we're at or actually acting upon it and doing something about that. That's the message that I received today. And I think that's huge. That's such a big thing.
And the fact that you're 24 years old and you were able to take props to you. Yeah, I know. I know, right? She gives me hope in our millennials. I'm just gonna say that.
You know what? Give us time. We're still in the figuring it out stage. We get a bad rep because we're still in the figuring it out stage. Just you wait. But my mantra that I always share with our listeners, and I'm excited to share with you, is that you are a good person and you deserve good things to happen to you.
Yeah.
Amen. Thank you guys so much for listening. Shawn, thank you for giving a time with us on this Friday. And you guys, we want you to live a model life and be more fits and healthy. So thank you guys so much. We'll see you next episode. Make sure that you find us on social media. You can find Cinthanie on Instagram and Facebook at Cinthanie. So that's CINTHANIE, and on Snapchat at Cinthanie P. And find me on social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all at Club Fitz Fitness. Remember, that's FITZ Fitness. And on Snapchat, just at Club Fitz. I appreciate your time listening so much. If you enjoyed this episode of the Fitz and Healthy podcast, can you please go do me a favor and go subscribe at whatever platform that it is that you listen to podcasts. Leave a review. We read every single review, and we appreciate the time that you take to leave your thoughts and opinions. Now, also remember, while I am a medical doctor, the information I provide here is not intended to provide medical advice or professional diagnosis, opinion, treatment, or services to you or to any other individual. I am providing general information for educational and informational purposes only, and it is not a substitute for medical or professional care. You should not use this information in place of a visit, call, consultation, or the advice of your physician or other healthcare provider. The information I share is not intended to treat, cure, or diagnose any disease or medical condition. If you believe you have a medical emergency, just call 911 immediately or your physician. Now, enough of that medical legal jargon. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I appreciate your time. Now, go live a Fitz and Healthy life.